Feelings that I had about men and sort of made me feel even bitchier about it and even more resentful and, you know, like I wanted to make fools of these people.
Others encouraged rebellion and immediate social transformation.
All women are lesbians, except those who don't know it naturally. They are, but don't know it yet. I am a woman and therefore a lesbian. I am a woman who is a lesbian because I am a woman, and a woman who loves herself naturally, who is other women, is a lesbian. A woman who loves women loves herself naturally. This is the case. A woman is herself, is all woman, is a natural-born lesbian. So we don't mind using the name like any name. It is quite meaningless. It means naturally. I am a woman, and whatever I am, we are. We affirm being what we are.
Don't expect me to stay walled up in the cloister. Scratchy habit, rubbing my body raw. Wimple, focusing my eyes straight ahead within the tunnel. Don't expect me to live that way. To be satisfied by isolated meditation? I deserve more. Don't foist all that on me. And you listen to me. Do you hear me? Do you hear me? I'm fed up. I'm not going to take any more of this. Do you hear me? Yeah, just listen to me.
They said, let's commit a crime. I said, sure. We committed grand theft. We stole electric typewriters and mimeograph machines from the Barron Park Elementary School for the Revolution. We took them to a house that belonged to a Stanford student who was in SDS, and they had machine guns there. I wasn't scared. No, I wasn't scared. I've committed grand theft for the Revolution.
Until all women are lesbians, there will be no true political revolution.
Why, didn't they encourage you in everything you wanted to do? Yes. But would you have allowed me to be a man?
I was invited to be in a wedding in Kennebunkport, Maine. I was the only non-white at the wedding. One of the friends of the family owned an old house that had been built in, I believe, the early 1800s. She wanted to invite all of the members of the wedding party to her home for lunch. That included the 5 bridesmaids and the 5 ushers. When we entered the house, she gave us a tour and finished the afternoon by giving us lunch. She seemed quite unnerved that I was a member of the wedding party and had her place changed from another table to my table where she could sit and watch me eat. At the end of the afternoon, as we were leaving, the men stood on one side of the door and the women stood on another side of the door. She shook hands with all of the white women, skipped over me, shook hands with all of the white men, and then came to me last. You really must be paranoid. Your art really isn't political either. You know, I hear your experiences and I think, well, it's got to be in her art. That's the only way we'll validate you, and it's got to be in your art in the way that we consider valid. If it isn't used in a way, if your symbols aren't used in a way that we use them, then we won't acknowledge them. In fact, you won't exist until we validate you. And, if you don't want to do what we tell you to do, then we'll find other tokens.
Do others go through their lives feeling like a stand-in who hasn't read the script? And why? If sustaining a life that was not my own was sapping me, why did I systematically continue the life supports? Like those hospitals who keep vegetable people alive with multi-million-dollar machines and equipment and much energy. Where did I get the notion that being me was so horrible, that preventing that from happening was worth all my discomfort and ingenuity? And when did those abortions and miscarriages begin? Those self-inflicted knitting needles and coat hangers to arrest at all costs the growth of the fetus, that homuncula that wanted to be, yet was considered too scandalous to see the light. Too scandalous for who? Who considered? The process must have started early, because by the age of 3, I was already suffering from insomnia and nervous tics. By 6, I was a nervous wreck. And by 9, I was no longer me, and I was perfecting the technique of artful recreation.
No matter how often I ask my mother to stop buying crackers, cookies, and things, she does anyway, even if I open. She does anyway, even if I open. No, she does anyway.
The reason I decided to become an art object was because of certain events that transpired in 1970. Let's see, there was the bombing of Cambodia, the killing of students at Jackson State and Kent State, the surfacing of the women's movement, and at the same time, there were these shows at the Museum of Modern Art and the Cultural Center dealing with conceptual art, which I was involved with at the time. And I realized that in the context of these incredible, world-shaking political happenings, that somehow the feeble protest of removing my work from a show and somehow trying to work up some form of social significance from what I was doing was just, it was really laughable. You know, I just felt that art had become so neutralized and so arcane that it just had nothing to do with what was going on. And I felt so personally affected by what was going on that I just felt it was incumbent upon me to change the work in some way.
I reached what seemed to be the tunnel's end, and without transition, I found myself in Jesus' living room. I don't know why or how I knew it was his, but I did. Just as I began to grow uneasy, bored by the music, he appeared. His hair was still long, and he had the proverbial beard, but instead of white robes or a shroud, he wore Bermuda shorts, a sports shirt, and sandals. He said, "Welcome to so-called heaven. You don't really deserve to be here, but we make allowances for cute chicks like yourself." I replied, "I never thought I was so good-looking, physically, that is. I could understand if you brought me here for my mind." "It's true, you're not much to look at, but a guy gets bored with perfection. All those gorgeous young boys. I need a change occasionally. Makes me appreciate the finer things. Frankly, most of the time women make me sick. You all look alike anyway. Let's get it on." With these words, as if by magic, we were transported to his bedroom. His clothes, with the exception of a pair of red net bikini briefs, had disappeared. I was still wearing the bloody and torn Army surplus fatigues and old Jimi Hendrix t-shirt I arrived in. "On your knees, bitch." "Fuck off, Jesus. No one treats me this way." "I could send you back to life paralyzed from the neck down." "Yeah, you're paralyzed from the neck up."
My basic feeling before I went into it, as I said, was to be a go-between between this male and female energy, to be a uniting force so that these two energies could come together and produce something positive and develop something that was worthwhile. Ritual means to me basically a ceremonious way of doing things, a form of doing it, usually something that has been done by many people before you in generally the same type of way.
The idea is very much to see what would happen if there was a being who had exactly my history, only a completely different visual appearance to the rest of society. And that's why I dress as a man. And I find that when I put on the garb, and somehow it transforms the nature of the experiences that I'm thinking about.
I remember, as a child, reading L'Homme qui rit by Victor Hugo. It's the story of a youngster who is kidnapped by gypsies who create circus monsters. They made him live in a sort of jug that distorted his features and his limbs. And after several years, he emerged as the laughing man, his expression being always and under all circumstances a monstrous and horrifying grin.
Young, young, wake up, step out, give up, come out and join us. Join the revolution, join the revolution.
Their investigations challenged and reinterpreted the social and artistic terms that had been established according to the dominant values of European culture, according to the values of white male supremacy, capitalism, and the class system. They wanted to understand the real situation as women. They sought consciousness as to who and what they were in political, social, sexual, emotional, and economic terms.
A woman has so much to cope with in today's world. At the end of the day, she often gets that tired, worn out, frazzled feeling. Good to know you can always reach for a bottle of this, or this, or this, and feel your troubles melt away.
But I need more than temporary relief. I need daycare. I need a better job. Don't give me drugs. Give me support. I need recognition for what I do. I need financial security. I want equal opportunity for the good jobs. I want protective legislation.
A man has so much to cope with in today's world.
On coffee breaks, they started to talk. Tellers and bookkeepers. They were treated unfairly, passed over for promotion, paid less than men, and expected to give overtime without pay when needed. Slowly, their small talk turned to issues. Then came the straw that broke the camel's back.
It was the last straw when they hired another man and wanted us to train him for a management position.
The bank never conceived of these women as possible managerial material. They got the best possible women they could for their jobs, and these were some pretty high caliber individuals. And then it forgot about them.
If we're qualified to train him in, then why aren't we qualified for the job?
He starts telling her he doesn't want her around anymore, so he keeps trying to tell her, yet she refuses to believe it. She thinks it's only, you know, she thinks he's just crazy, and she had just had a nervous breakdown before she had met him, and it was just totally turning her head around. So finally he just disappears. She comes home one day and he's just gone, and she waits a few days and he doesn't show up, so she decides to go to her mother's for a while. And she had found out she was pregnant a couple weeks, but she hadn't told him. And she tells her mother, but her mother is very against, you know, being pregnant, you know, when you're not wed. So she's constantly telling her that now, before it even shows, she should try to, you know, find someone who'll marry her, or else, you know, find someone who'll understand, you know, that she's pregnant and want to have the kid with her. So it's putting her on the verge of another breakdown. And when her mother goes out shopping one day, she walks into the bathroom and she opens the mirror and you see her reaching for the razor. And when she takes it out, she before she does anything with it, she starts filling the sink up with water, and which is probably to put her wrists in to make her bleed to death.
Dear, I just can't believe that you took the time to write a personal letter. I know it wasn't a form letter because you addressed me by my name several times and even referred to people I told you about in my letter. And when you said, please write again, I care, I cried. Why would anyone want to help me straighten out my rotten, mixed-up life? I don't deserve it. 5 times people saved me from suicide. Sometimes I wish they'd have let me die. It's so hard to keep saying thank you. I'm a registered nurse and should be helping people, but instead people are helping me, which makes me feel so guilty. I have a fantastic new psychiatrist who acts as though he really cares about me. I don't know why anyone would care if I lived or died. I'm not pretty or smart or productive. I'm a burden and a problem to everyone who knows me. But this doctor makes me feel so great. Is life worth living to feel great for only 1 hour a week? Help me. Signed, finished at 24. Dear 24, you're far from finished. You're just beginning to realize how precious life is. Every human being who reaches out for help wants it and deserves it. It's always darkest just before the dawn. Hang in there and don't let your doctor or yourself down. You can make it if you try. I'm counting on you. Dear, my daughter died recently. I don't know if I can face life now. She was pretty, bright, a registered nurse, had everything to live for, and she killed herself. Her landlord found her hanging from a light fixture in the middle of her apartment. She had slashed her wrists with a razor, then climbed up on a stool and secured a pair of pantyhose to the light fixture, tied the other end around her neck, then kicked the stool away. The landlord took a Polaroid. Her face is blue, all the blood drained out of her wrists onto the carpet. How can I live with this picture in my mind? I don't understand it. She had everything to live for and was seeing a psychiatrist she really liked. Help me. Signed, Grieving Mother. Dear Grieving Mother, you're far from finished. You're just beginning to realize how precious life is. Every human being who reaches out for help wants it and deserves it. It's always darkest just before the dawn. Hang in there and don't let her doctor or yourself down. You can make it if you try. I'm counting on you.
Isn't it amazing that they can get up each morning? That they can actually drive cars, go to the supermarket, read street signs, operate appliances, vote in elections, blow their children's noses. These creatures with teeth that tear flesh, mouths that make sounds. Isn't it amazing that we allow them to live among us? These creatures that we can and do control.
Did you break up with your husband during the strike?
Yes.
How did your church react to that?
My pastor gave me this book to help me. I suddenly realized what was wrong in our family. I had been out from under my husband's authority, and we were all suffering because of it. And another one, when a woman has a truly submissive spirit, she has far greater power to appeal than most people realize.
vitamins every few hours, then food, vitamins, foot massage, lighting candles. Now we have to do this all over again. In the morning for our ex-mates. Is she thinking about Lynn? Goodbye for a while, Pauline. I love you, but now I have to mourn and be with Mitchell.
Max, I heard you died. In the park, a cruiser's death. What quirk of fortune brought you to that trashy end? After all, you were my first access to the finer things. A reproduction of the Sistine Jehovah and Adam. André Gide, tall Nuremberg bureaus. Tom and Jerry's at Christmas never equaled since. Chinese rugs, fresh herring, Parsifal, soigné young men who spoke of axiology, cast-off wives of virile poets who wept on your shoulder and graced your parlor.